to accept what we can't change, the story of our lives. We read between the lines.
Tries to hold on to the bottom. Here comes Tristan. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Oh, trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the triangle. No, Rocky up and into the air. They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom. Cosman up top. Cosman, I think. No. Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no. At the line, Third Horse pulls the win out at the stripe. Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your foot there. He got it. He's got it. He's got it. The canvas is going to win.
Two weeks ago, drivers spent their Thursday night turning left and right in mid-Ohio. Now we move one Commonwealth over to Pennsylvania and the 3-turned racetrack in Pocono. Drivers tonight will have to outfox the competition around this tricky triangle. See what I did there? We're glad to have you along for the ride, everybody, and we welcome you to FDF.GG's coverage of the second race for round 2 of the 2022 eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series, live from the virtual live from the virtual Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Glad to have you with us. Jacob Hitz, James Pike, and Caleb Hoffman here with you. Justin Malillo down on pit road. James, you were here for the Coke series when they were here. Not a lot of comparing, I should say, between the next-gen cars and the trucks, at least not apples to apples, but we saw a great race on Tuesday night and a great finish. Does any of that correlate to tonight?
I think the first thing I want to make sure I make clear for the viewership is that when we're talking about Commonwealths of the United States, it's Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Kentucky, I believe. We'll let chat correct me on that one. But just so we have that baseline down, boom. And then I think the thing that stands out to me, and it may correlate here, I think will to some degree, I'm just not sure how much, is the effect of the draft. We saw that really play into the green flag runs, in particular on the opening 15 laps of a run. I think that might be even more pronounced because we know these trucks of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series poke a bigger hole through the air. It means that momentum will be even more at a premium, and you won't be able to bail yourself out on different levels of skill or different line, what have you. You're going to have to really nail corner exit here more so than just about anywhere else we go to, either in round 1 or round 2, in order to maximize lap times, give yourself the most opportunities to get to the front of the field, and ultimately have a shot to win this race.
Caleb, we see a lot of fuel mileage when we come to this racetrack, no matter what series. Tonight's really no different. Fuel window is around 30 or so laps. You're going to split the race in half for the most part, but do we see any guys try and pull some strategy tonight? Because it's possible to do here.
Yeah, I mean, strategy is always so tough with this series because, it's the element of cautions that we don't know. They're not guaranteed. You don't have anything to really base a strategy around. You have to base it, just kind of play it by ear as you go. So it's going to be really interesting to see tonight. how strategies play out. I think you'll see some guys, try to bank on a caution here or there. And again, with how clean this series is, some guys might try to be stretching it all the way. So we'll see how those stops factor in tonight.
Qualifying going on right now as we speak. Just wrapping up. We've got, roughly a minute and a half or so until qualifying is completely done and over with. Right now, top of the board belongs to one Casey Tucker. 53.789 is the fastest time thus far, but guys are still completing their laps. It takes a while to get around this racetrack, 53 seconds or so in these trucks. So until they get up to speed, finish their warm-up lap, get around and do 2 laps around here, it takes a while. It almost takes the full 5 minutes. Daniel Botafuco now to the top of the board, a 53.737. He's got to be one of the hottest drivers in the field of 70 based off of his performance in round 1, how it's carried over into round 2. He has really had blistering fast speed everywhere we've gone.
He's just been really fast all year. He's had a lot of success here in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. He's had a lot of success in the eNASCAR College iRacing series. And oh, by the way, it's also a home race for him, a New Jersey native. So we would expect that he would know this place well. At least you would think.
You would think, yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's a home racetrack for a couple of folks. Myself included, and I look forward to heading back up for the first time in 3 years because of COVID. So it'll be a good time, at least Saturday when I'm up there. And yeah, how about, well, we've got another guy that'll be racing here Friday and Saturday, Rajah Caruth. He'll be here for the ARCA race tomorrow, and then back at it for the Xfinity race on Saturday evening, 5 o'clock start there. Let's take a look at our starting grid for tonight's race. As I mentioned, Daniel Botafuco, he is your pole sitter for tonight. Casey Tucker lines up on the outside. Kenny Brady and Kyle Myers make up row number 2. Anthony Burrows and Andrew Navarro make up row 3. Will Klein and Jonathan Delaney round out row 4. And it's the winner from 2 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, Joey Brown, and Timmy Holmes rounding out the top 10.
James Wenzel starts in the 11th position this evening. 12th on the grid is Johnny Avila. Tyler Gary rolls off from 13th, and Timmy Pacioli starts tonight from the 14th spot. Home race for him, too. Christopher Pfeiffer begins from 15th. 16th is where you'll find Nathan Jurgensen. Starting 17th is Blake Bottoms. Jackson Crowder will roll off from the 18th position. 19th on the grid is Daniel Eberhardt, and Max Brady completes the top 20.
You're going to look back to 21st. That's where you'll find Liam Sheen starting alongside Blaze Crawford. Jared Torres in row 12 with Joel Blewett. Then we have Shane Williamson and Jordy Lopez in row 13. Going back to row 14, you're going to find Ethan Lane in 27th alongside Tucker Minter in 28th. Michael Bumgarner starting in 29th. And then in 30th, you'll see Ty Bass.
Your final 5, we have a full field of 70 between both splits tonight. First time that's happened so far this year. Matt Coker, Rajah Caruth make up row 16. Christopher Hill, Joseph Galata back in row 17. Channing Ballou rounds out our field of 35 for 60 laps from Pocono. Let's look at our, I guess we can call it race analysis or so. 60 laps, guys. That fuel window actually will turn to our pit reporter, who's somewhat on location. Justin Malillo, what you got? Cool, thanks, Justin. Appreciate the time, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again in just a little while as the drivers roll off pit road and they get set to go. They have 3 sets of tires behind pit wall. No faster pairs as of normal. And now I believe Justin has got everything figured out. And let's try it again. Justin.
Thank you, Jacob. I figured out the correct button to turn on my microphone here. 60 laps ahead of us. That means if this race is able to go green all the way, we're going to get 1 pit stop. These guys will probably figure that out around laps 25 to 35. And yeah, that should be pretty straightforward. But if we do get those cautions, then these guys are going to have to figure out when to take tires, when they're going to take fuel, if they're going to want to save fuel. It's going to be a fun time either way.
Just have to wait and see what these guys decide to do. Right now in sim, your weather, partly cloudy, 75 degrees, winds out of the west at 4 miles an hour. The humidity down just a little bit, 49%. Your track temperature, a toasty 115 degrees. I would take this weather for Saturday, for this weekend, but it's not going to be like that. Temperature is going to be above 90 degrees all 3 days up in the Poconos. It's going to be hot and steamy all weekend long. So a little bit of perhaps a little normalcy here in sim to get us going as the field rolls through turn number 3. What turn 4? You better call me out if I say trouble turn 4 tonight, since there is none. But the pace car will make its way onto pit road. Daniel Bonafuco will lead us down to the green flag. Road to Pro. The eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series is green from Pocono. Well, that got hairy a couple of times on the opening lap, but they make it around without any incident. Bonafuco pulling away. Casey Tucker in tow, catching him with the draft, headed to turn 1.
The biggest thing I want to hit on here is they start to string out. We talked about the draft already, but another piece that we didn't talk about before the green flag that I think really will factor into race analysis. Remember that we have 3 green-white checker attempts available if we need them. We used up all 3 in the Coke Series on Tuesday night. We ran 72 laps ballpark, I think, somewhere. It was north of 70, I forget specifically, but regardless, that still was 10 laps beyond the scheduled distance. When you consider the fuel window is anywhere between 28 and 32 laps in these trucks, that window is a little bit smaller than what you're going to find in the Cup cars. So if we get green-white checkers, even if these drivers stretch their fuel runs at the beginning and go as far as you can, we go anywhere into maybe a second or a third green-white checker, there are going to be some people that are going to be nervous about fuel. There's no way around that.
No doubt about it. Casey Tucker telling Daniel Bonafuco right now, I'm just chilling around. I'm not going to be too aggressive fighting for the lead. Further back, they are scrapping and clawing any way they can. Little loose coming off turn 1. Look out. The 57 back there. Jared Torres in the thick of it, 3 wide. They've been trying to wreck just about every corner, every lap.
Yeah, and right now, a lot of these guys towards the back of the pack, have been pretty aggressive so far, which is, feels kind of counterintuitive at this point because, you want to be catching on that draft, trying to stretch this fuel out as much as you can at a track like Pocono where fuel strategy is so important. So really interesting to see these guys moving up, trying to do anything they can to move on up.
It will finish lap number 3 here as they cross the stripe. Bonafuco continues to lead away. They've broken away from Kenny Brady, who sits alone in 3rd spot. And then it's a choo-choo train from Andrew Navarro on back. Perhaps these guys at the front just riding around and waiting till they get close to the window on fuel. But in the back, it is a slugfest back here. Side by side, Ethan Lane and Jared Torres.
They can race all they want, but I love what Casey Tucker is doing right now, just sitting in line behind Daniel Bonafuco and conserving fuel more than anything else, which is going to happen a little bit for some of these drivers in the middle of the pack as well, even if they're racing side by side, because you're just part of that big draft train. I think that's the biggest key for any of these drivers right now. Get in line, fall behind somebody, unless you've got a car that's abundantly quicker than anyone else. I would focus more on strategy here, at least for now. If we get a quick yellow, it might change things, but I really love the thought of just sitting in line and clicking off laps, stretching out this initial fuel run as far as you possibly can to give yourself the great chance to get good.
Front straightaway, we've got one around. It's Jared Torres. Got hooked going down the front straightaway. Another car involved, the 26. Sorry to cut you off there, James. 26 of,
Ethan Lane.
Ethan Lane, yeah.
Which,
Blake Bottom's got a as well.
Credit to Zach Johnson, our producer, because he was right on top of that. That was right around the battle pack that we had been watching on the lap prior. I noticed that Lane, Torres, all of them were just going nuts. And, yeah, just a little bit of weird.
Jordy Lopez Jr.
Yeah, with Jordy Lopez.
Yeah. He made the
Bottoms
contact. Oh, man, Rajah Caruth went for a slide then into turn number 1. It started with Lopez getting into Bottoms, and then Lopez came down and hooked the 07 and sent him up the racetrack.
Yeah, and
Bam,
watch Rajah
bam.
right here. He just tries to thread that needle, and it just doesn't work out for him. Great save for the 13, though.
And no damage. The only contact he had was bouncing off of Jordy Lopez Jr. there, trying to get by. On board. Oh. Jordy did nothing. I apologize. He had nothing to do with that. It looked like it from that first angle. He had no issue in that at all. That was all Bottoms.
But
wow.
If we look at strategy, though, here, now that we have this yellow, you would like to think that maybe this gives people a breather after that first stop. I'm going to be watching pit stops very, very close, in part because it played such a big piece in what we saw on Tuesday night, and also in part because it's going to affect the way these drivers attack this race. And we should see comers and goes if we go green. We saw that a lot on Tuesday night as well. There were drivers, our winner Casey Kern was one of them, who had things set up so that his car came in about 15 laps in and was way stronger from lap 15 to 30 than it was at the beginning of the race.
Pit road is open, Justin.
Well, it looks like some of the drivers are opting to take one of their 4 sets of tires early on. There are others that are staying on the track, though, and I'm interested to see how this dynamic is going to play out. A lot of drivers that were in the back of the pack are staying out, and track position is pretty key. We'll see if these guys are going to be taking 4 tires, 2 tires, or if they're just looking to fuel up. I see right sides going up, and a lot of these guys fuel only for Kenny Brady. He's down and away. Left sides are up for Buttafuoco. He's down. Tucker. There we go. 4 tires for most everybody else who pitted.
Ethan Lane, Matt Coker, they took fuel only. It's about as close to a 50-50 split as you can get here. 17 guys stayed out. The rest came on to pit road. Kevin McAdams joins us. He is keeping a watchful eye on the odd split going on right now. How they doing? Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening, everybody. Top split, or as we call it, the odd split. Pretty calm, pretty green right now, and I think something that we'll see in both sides, track position obviously going to be key, and I think that's why you saw so many people stay out here in the even split. Right now, White Tinsley commands the field with Parker White in tandem. Yes, I do mean that in seriousness. Tandem. They are about 4 or 5 car lengths ahead of the rest of the field, and they have broken away. A little bit of competition for the lead. Parker White obviously having a very strong Road to Pro season, and I think he's looking to continue that. As another mention, with the lack of passing that I think we'll see tonight, track position is such a key. The fastest I think we've seen someone come through the field right now is Kevin King. He's only up 3 spots from 20th. He is in 17th, and we just had a caution here in the odd split. Colton Salick around in the tunnel turn, getting involved with what it looks like Derek Lemke as they entered turn 2. So a lot of action going on right now in the odd split.
So yet another early caution there. 7 laps are complete. The first 4 or 5 have been under green here in this split. Lights are out on the pace car, so we'll do one more lap before we get back under the green flag. Interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how these guys with 4 tires shake out compared to the guys that decided to stay out here, James.
We're right on the edge to where this could go either way, I think. I'm really not sure what the correct call is going to be when we look back on this at the end of this race, because we're in such a gray zone, I think, so far as strategy goes, where yes, maybe you give yourself a little bit of insurance on the green white checker, but if this goes green, then you just gave up all that track position for what exactly? I don't know. I flip a coin basically, and then come back to me in like 2 hours and we'll know what the correct answer was.
Kyle Myers just came back onto pit road there to top off. Actually, he was in the box for 16 seconds, so a little bit longer than just a top off. Blake Bottoms is back out on the racetrack after he was in the box for just about a minute and a half. He's back rolling. No faster pairs for these guys, so once you wreck them, you're stuck with that damage pretty much the rest of the way. Kevin, I see an O in the chat very excitedly, quickly, maybe. Oh, I see. Maybe a little bit of beef going on.
Yeah, looking at that last wreck in the odd split, Derek Lemke and Colton Salick got involved. Salick did bump Lemke going into the tunnel turn. Lemke didn't like that very much. Left hooked Salick right into the fence, involved Blackford and company. So big wreck early on here in the odd split.
Coming back to the green flag, it's Jonathan Delaney leading us down with Will Klein on the outside. Green flag, trouble! They are wrecking! A huge crash! They are all piling up on the front straightaway. Raja Karuth is around. They did not get going, and the pack piles it on in. A lot of guys are very upset. It was back around, well, I was going to say the Logitech G Altus cars, but it was happening before them. James Wenzel, no, it was the 86 of Pacioli that didn't go, got hit from behind. Then Max Brady got hit. His truck went up into the air, and they just kept piling it on in the back of the field. We're back under caution. A couple of guys have already packed it up. Anthony Burrows, he's going home.
Yeah, so lots to talk about here. I think you look at Timmy Pacioli, Daniel Eberhardt is where this starts on the outside lane, and Patch just spun the tires. Everybody else checked up around Tim. There was an accordion effect that you see that sort of went back here, and there were 3 or 4 drivers that got turned around. Biggest thing I think to note maybe out of all of this is that Daniel Buttafuoco now has a significant amount of rear end damage, and it goes back to the track position piece that we mentioned just a few moments ago when we were talking about pit strategy, because if you take the pit stop, maybe you set yourself up better in the race for strategy, but you also put yourself in a position just like this in the center of the field where if some incident like this happens, you can get caught up in it. That's exactly what's happened to Buttafuoco and some of the other drivers that came down pit road a few laps ago as well.
And it wasn't Max Brady that got up into the air, Caleb. It was Brady that got into Liam Sheen and sent him bouncing like a basketball down the front straightaway. A lot of guys throughout this back half of the field with a considerable amount of damage. Especially guys that were up toward the front. Ty Bass, the front end, beaten. Same thing with Galata. Looking up through the rest of the field, Andrew Navarro, he's got damage on the front end of his car. Max Brady, obviously, with damage. Liam Sheen as well. A lot of guys in the back half of the field that really wanted to keep it clean by going to the back. Instead, can't even get to the start-finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at this, I mean, there are 2 main incidents to look at here. Obviously, we have what happened with Daniel Eberhardt and Patch. Just looking right now, it was a big stack up on that outside line, and then you saw Jordy Lopez try to peek to the outside of Max Brady, and it was just a big stack up effect, and nothing you can really do when everybody's bunched up together like this. Really unfortunate, like James was saying, for all these guys that had just pitted in the back, because now you give up track position and all this goes wrong in front of you, and now you have damage, and your chances to win tonight are considerably decreased now.
A lot of damage to Anthony Burrows. He just chose to park the car right then and there and throw in the towel. He had a lot of damage on the front end of that 62. I'm not sure he would have had the speed to be competitive if he continued. Maybe that's why he just decided to call it a night. Guys on pit road getting damaged, fixed right now. Tucker Minter, the front end, beaten on that thing as well as the back end. Rough day for Logitech G Altus Esports. Obviously, Jordi Lopez Jr. made it through that first one. He got a little bit of damage here in this crash, gets it rolling. Not too long of a stay on pit road. Max Brady involved, as we mentioned. Pacioli was the truck that got turned sideways first. Andrew Navarro. Kenny Brady is on pit road. He's got damage on the back end of that car. Remember, he took fuel only. He was right smack dab in the middle of the field when things went haywire.
Trying to figure out who that's come down pit road doesn't actually have major damage, and I'm not sure if we've got too many people that weren't torn up either in that first wreck going off into one, or this incident, which affected a lot of people just because it was dead center of the restart zone, just about that this all broke around. Pretty much the worst place you could have something happen here at Pocono if you're trying to, not collect half the field. So a lot of guys came down pit road. I think, though, your top 10 plus Shane Williamson stayed out. And Casey Tucker just had a really good drive on whatever restart we had for the hundreds of feet or so before we got the yellow flag back out, but was able to clear Shane Williamson. So Casey Tucker is the first of the drivers that came down pit road.
And Botafuco's right behind him as well. Yeah, we've had 11 guys have yet to come onto pit road. Maybe 10 or so more that pitted under the last caution flag. Everybody else pitting under this caution flag, more than likely with damage for most of them. So 34 cars remain in this race. A couple more left on pit road. They're actually rolling now, so they will recatch the back of the field. A lot of guys with long stays on pit road under this caution flag. Sheen, Pacioli, Galata, Minter, Navarro, Max Brady, all taking very long stays on pit road, pretty much just avoiding getting lapped and then getting back out onto the racetrack. Not sure that all of their damage is fixed yet, but Casey Tucker is giving a lecture right now to the rest of the field. If there's a truck in front of you, don't run into it. We'll see how that pays off the rest of the way, as 12 laps will be complete when we get the restart. Your leader still Jonathan Delaney. Will Klein still on the outside. It was these guys that were maybe 500 feet from turn one, maybe a little more than that, before things got turned upside down in the back of the field. Pace car is in. We'll try this restart once more. Green flag back underway, and the field this time going a lot better. A couple of cars pulling out a line, including the 26 machine. Saw it just for a moment. Ethan Lane back there diving to the inside.
One of the longest front straightaways, if not, I believe, the longest front straightaway that we will see in this eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series season for 2022, either round one or round two. So lots of fun that can be had on the restarts, but immediately your front 3, 4, call it 5 are single file, and then James Wenzel looking to the inside of Jackson Crowder to try and get 6, which he will do on the exit of the tunnel turn.
Heard somebody say, I didn't even know there were 3 back in the pack. Blake Bottom stuck in the middle. Raja Caruth on the outside. Liam Sheen down on the bottom. These are guys with damage back here that have been involved in incidents, just trying to bring it back around in one piece. And they haven't stopped racing really aggressive back here. Even though some new faces, they're still very, very aggressive. 2 and 3 wide. Kenny Brady's going to try and go 4 wide headed to turn 1.
Yeah, poor Michael Baumgartner there. He was up top 3 wide between 2 different packs in turns number 2 and 3. Glad he got that sorted out now, but still, I mean, right behind him, there's still 3 wide, as you said, Raja Caruth. Kenny Brady's been really aggressive so far. Despite the damage, a lot of these guys not afraid to make moves and try to get up to the front.
Well, I don't think they can really afford to sit around too long. It's only a 60-lap race. It's just not 250 miles, not even 200. So it's 150 miles here that these guys have to work with. It's basically an ARCA distance, if not less than an ARCA distance. So you really don't have a lot of time to go from the back to the front. Plus, it's hard to pass here, so that doesn't make life any easier.
Hard to pass, not necessarily because you don't have any room. Again, it's all about the draft. I feel like I sound like a broken record to a point, but that's how much it factors into things here and how much it matters to maintain someplace behind the truck in front of you just to keep up with the race leaders. The fronts, call it 6, maybe 7 if you include Jackson Crowder, have already gapped P8 Blaze Crawford by maybe a truck length or 2. He'll try and gather that back up in the tunnel turn, but again, already beginning to string out, and it's going to affect some of these side-by-side battles as well, because if you don't complete your pass, especially corner entry to middle of the corner, you're stuck side-by-side with somebody corner exit, you're usually going to get beat down the straightaway because that person's going to have the draft and you won't.
This actually is the truck distance for Saturday's race. I was thinking 150 miles sounded maybe right, but the ARCA race is 80 laps here instead of 60. I don't make the schedule. I don't shoot the messenger. Meanwhile, side-by-side battle in turn 1. Tyler Gary on the bottom. Casey Tucker round the outside. Kyle Myers trying to follow in that 81.
Casey Tucker is going to be a really good bellwether of how much track position does or does not matter with the fresh tires, Caleb. That I want to watch too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been watching a few of these guys on corner entry, and there are a few different, actually almost had a car go around. Michael Bumgardner in turn number 2 just got a shove in the rear end from Blake Bottoms. Was going to comment on, the entry. Some of these guys have been really trying to send it in on the bottom and slide up, almost like a slide job-esque dirt track move here at Pocono. Which sounds pretty crazy, but, it's been paying off for a few guys. Liam Sheen, Raja Caruth, really this whole battle right here has been really using it to their advantage.
How about the battle for second? Here comes Johnny Avila underneath the 48 of Will Klein. Klein tried to make the move for the lead in turn 2, lost a lot of momentum, and now here comes the 26. That's not a 26. How about 63? He's 26 in sim for us. He's now in the second spot, and Joey Brown, he's going to try and work on Timmy Holmes once again for 4th.
Joey Brown just continuing to string together incredible finish after incredible finish as Timmy Holmes got the fence on the exit of the tunnel turn, I believe. But Joey Brown, insane consistency. Doesn't this feel a lot like Steven Wilson's run in this series 2 years ago, guys, for those who remember it? And it was about this time of year, too, where we got to June and July, and he just clicked off win after win after win after win, and then top 5s everywhere. It was a precursor to what we've seen a lot of this year for Stuart Haas Esports and Coke Series. Joey Brown's having that same kind of stretch in his 2022 eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series campaign.
New leader, Johnny Avila. He got by the 6 going down into turn number 1. So he will take the lead as we continue to watch this battle for 4th. By the way, that truck that you see just up the road from the leaders, that's Daniel Eberhardt. He did not get caught up to the field by the time they got the green flag, so he is in danger of falling 1 lap down. Brown will get that 4th spot away from Timmy Holmes. Meanwhile, James Wenzel in the 43 is getting freight trained. He's all alone on the outside, and he's about to drop out of the top 10.
He will, however, get the draft coming out of the corner, Caleb.
Whoa, big contact there. Raja Caruth just had big contact with Blake Bottoms, and I was going to comment on this lead pack, or not this lead pack. This pack right here has been very dicey, especially coming out of the tunnel turn. It's just been a very treacherous spot for all these trucks. Lots of guys that are brushing the wall on exit, making contact, all sorts of things going on right now. This is a big pack to watch. Maybe a caution coming out of this group soon.
And Kenny Brady all over the back bumper of Raja Caruth, but I think the game plan should be right now for these guys, perhaps, Caleb, stay in line so you can catch the guys in front of you with the draft instead of being side-by-side. When you're side-by-side like that, you're slowing yourself down, and the guys in front of you, they're just going to keep pulling away.
Absolutely, and I mean, not only for momentum reasons, but, just getting through here, you got to save fuel, and drafting is going to help so much with that. It's... I feel like you would want to stay in line, just to, like you said, make up room, save fuel, all sorts of things. It feels like it would be beneficial. Just a lot of these guys, like you said, with the short distance, maybe are really feeling the tension, the pressure, and the anxiety to get up front as fast as possible.
Let's turn back over to the odd split with Kevin.
Jacob just went back to green after our second yellow. Knobloch, unfortunately, gets put in the inside wall by Daniel Falkingham. Me and Justin were talking about it in the chat. Not clear for Falkingham, so tough break for Knobloch. He did manage to get back on track, currently residing in that 30th position. Not a lot of change in the action on the front side of the pack. Tinsley still leading, White still second. It seems like they are going to continue to work together. McKissick has done really well to maintain the rest of the field. He has run third the entire event, as well as Boyd Hogan in fourth. One of the front runners who has tried to make his way through the field right now from 26th to 14th, that number 26 of Matt Forkapa. He has now made his way up 12 spots. But other than that, not a lot of passing right now in the odd split. Back to you, Jacob.
Well, it's pretty much the same story up here. Things have calmed down since we've gone back to just single file racing up here at the front of the field. I had a couple passes here and there at the start of the run, but we're single file all the way back through. This lead pack is about 18 cars deep. The first side-by-side battle, the tail end of the field. Timmy Pacioli and Ty Bass right now.
Yeah, and right now, be careful looking out right now for trucks that are starting to step out just a little bit. I mean, handling isn't really the first thing that comes to your mind, but right now kind of getting into the run a little bit, that's something definitely to watch out for. You're starting to see trucks start to step out a little, get a little sideways on corner exit here.
Everybody single file all the way around this 2.5-mile racetrack. And as I say that, look out. Here comes Casey Tucker. He's on 4 fresh tires, and he wants more. He goes by Joey Brown for that 4th spot, and he'll scamper after Will Klein in that 48 right in front of him.
Casey Tucker's really the only one that's made those 4 tires work. He's up to 4th. Kyle Myers is the next person in line that had tires off that last pit stop and came down and got 4 fresh tires. He's only in 10th, and then you have Buttafuoco, who even with that damage to the rear end of his truck is only running 11th. So Casey Tucker might be figuring something out here that maybe everybody else is still yet to put together, perhaps.
And perhaps these guys, maybe some thinking conserving tires a little bit, Caleb, but Casey Tucker is just throwing caution to the wind. He is digging after these guys, not wasting any time. He wants that track position just in case a yellow would come out. Here comes Delaney back on Avila for the lead, and that 63 rather is just going to pull up and pretty much give him the spot. He'll slide right into second, but Will Klein had a good run for a moment. I think he lifted to let him in line.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that was, again, one of those passes that you're really starting to see guys figure out how to use their trucks and pass now. Tons of guys are sending it in on exit, going to the inside, watching the guy on the outside let off, and then just using their momentum to carry him forward and complete the pass and just sliding up in front of them and trying to steal off any run they can try to get. So it's a really interesting method to pass, but it's been working for a bunch of these guys in the pack, Liam Sheen, namely.
Side by side, Kyle Myers and James Wenzel. This is for the 9th spot right now. Wenzel on the outside, Myers with the fresh tires down on the bottom. Wenzel has yet to come onto pit road. I would imagine, perhaps, Justin, that these guys that have stayed out so far consistently in this race, we're going to see them head to pit road in the next couple of laps.
I think they're probably going to go a little bit further past halfway because of those cautions. That kind of makes the split for the green flag laps a little bit later in the run. If they're going to try and get the equal amount of distance out of the tires, I would see these guys maybe pitting around like 30, 35. But then again, you might get guys coming in early trying to get as good as they can with the tires early on. I think I just heard somebody say that they might be pitting here.
I heard Gary say something. But Tyler Gary, that is. And yes, he is on pit road. So he's going to make the call to come onto pit road. Yeah, and this is his first stop. I heard Gary come over the radio earlier and say something that perhaps he made contact. But looking at the front end of his truck, that damage might just be from the restart stack up. No, it's not. He got the nose chopped off by Ethan Lane, it looks like, a couple of laps ago down the Long Pond straightaway. Ethan Lane wasn't clear, came up and got hooked into the wall. We've got some championship playoff I don't know what to call this, points implications in the other split. Kevin.
Third caution already of the evening in the odd split. Thomas Keene, big warp from him. He's involved. He's now 1 lap down. A couple other drivers who have had issues. Omar Diallo fell out of the server on the last caution. He is now 5 laps down in 33rd and probably one of the front runners to win the championship. We have a caution in the odd on the even split there, Jacob.
It's Rajah Caruth on the front straightaway. He was getting bump drafted by Shane Williamson. He pushed him on the left rear and turned him around. So there's your caution. I don't think you mentioned the big part of that there, Kevin, so I'll let you go back and finish that.
Sorry, I went right into play-by-play mode. Seth DeMerchant, who I think a lot of people would have on their favorites list to not only make their way into the Pro Series, but be in the top of the points, blows up on lap 20. He is also done for the day. He will unofficially finish in the 31st position, pending anyone else gets back on track. So a lot of action here. Still the same people up front, but a lot of people falling out of the race pretty quickly here, Jacob.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Let's get a replay of that contact coming off turn 3. Just going to slide up in front, going to get a nice little push, and Williamson gets on that left rear and just turns him around.
Safe to say that Rajah Caruth probably has not enjoyed his evening at Pocono all that much and is hoping for a little bit better luck, especially in the Arkham Menard series at Pocono later this weekend.
And looking back to the race 2 weeks ago when we were at Mid-Ohio, he didn't have that great of a finish there either. Rajah finishing in the 27th position on the lead lap. Right now he sits P30. He's going to need a lot of help the rest of the way in order to have a shot at making the top 20 out of this round. You got to be high up in points. Yes, you get a drop, but still, Caleb, you can't really afford to have a bad finish. You almost want to keep that drop race in your back pocket everywhere you go, even in the last race of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, this is really one of the most important parts of the season. This is where you have to get your momentum up, not only to make it out of this round, but if you do make it out of this round, keep your momentum up to really make a shot at the pros. So, right now it's all about just consistency, smooth and calm, keeping everything together. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Joey Brown's kind of been doing that Steven Wilson-esque type of a run. So, you want to really model your way around that, just being very consistent and staying up front.
Pit stops near halfway, Kevin. No, Justin, I know who you are.
I'm here. Yeah, we got pit stops, and everybody's coming down pit road this time because you can make it from here. Everybody's going to fill it up all the way to the top of filling up fuel. We might see some guys opt for some different strategies because, like I said before, track position is everything. Maybe those guys who pitted earlier opt for 2 tires here. Maybe some guys will opt for no tires. We don't know. But I'm looking at Delaney's pit right now. He takes 4. He's out of the box. And it looks like he's going to be first off the pit road.
Delaney will win the race off pit road, and it looks like everybody taking 4 tires throughout the field. 27 laps are complete here from Pocono Raceway for race 2 of round 2 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. We'll take a break. Jonathan Delaney is your race leader under caution. Back here from the virtual Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, Caleb Hoffman here with you. Justin Belillo down on pit road. Kevin McAdams helping us with the odd split going on at the same time. We are just shy of halfway. We'll get a restart with 31 laps to go, serving under our third caution flag of the night, getting set for the restart. Everybody took 4 tires on that last stop, and actually we had a couple decide to top off under this caution. Tucker Minter, Blake Bottoms, Daniel Eberhardt, Shane Williamson, Ethan Lane, all coming onto pit road that last time by and topping off with fuel. I believe Raja Karuth did the same thing as well. Jonathan Delaney and Johnny Avila will lead us down to the green flag, just shy of the halfway point here in this race. Pace car is in. We're back to green.
Solid jump there for Jonathan Delaney. They'll fan out 3, 4, 5 wide, as you would expect here at Pocono on restarts. The question is, how many trucks wide will they be when they get down to turn 1 and come out and make their way into the long pond straight towards the tunnel turn? The answer is trouble in the middle of the pack. I think that's Jackson Crowder who got the fence first. He was the first one to go around.
Upside down. Daniel Eberhardt on his roof. He piled into that one late. It was a car, it was the 54, you're right, Jackson Crowder, that made contact with Jordy Lopez Jr., I believe, and that's what tipped that whole thing off. You've got more than half a dozen, maybe closer to a dozen trucks involved with this crash. Eberhardt, big damage, done. Crowder, big damage, done. Jared Torres, Ethan Lane, Tyler Gary, Liam Sheen, Joel Blewett, all with big damage.
Yeah, and watch that one develop live. It was all a stack-up effect off the restart, which bunched everyone together. Christopher Hill in the 15 truck didn't see Jackson Crowder on the inside, didn't make contact, but it was enough to scare Jackson Crowder right into Jordy Lopez's lane and started all of that. You'll see it right here on the replay.
And then down into turn number 1, it's mid-pack. Right there, the first guy's 3 wide. I think that 54 Crowder came down a little bit, pinching Jordy Lopez Jr. Gonna need a better view of it. A couple of guys bouncing up into the air, including that 07 that we saw of, that 07 of Torres. And Eberhardt comes piling in from the back. The furthest angle possible. Now, you see Raja Karuth way back there. He might have a pretty good vantage point of this, so check that out in a bit. Here we go, back into 1. And just comes down a little bit, perhaps reacting to that truck on the outside of him, but just not enough room. And a big, big crash. And there you see the Tony Hawk style from Daniel Eberhardt in the background through turn 1. Climbs up over the 57 of Max Brady and then lands on its wheels. It's a rough night for Eberhardt. We'll see if we can get an onboard here with Raja Karuth. Headed down into 1. You're going to see him start to wreck. And this onboard better be good because he's going to be driving through a mass graveyard of trucks right here.
Just almost like a big one to plate track. Get on the brakes, watch them all wreck in front of you, slow down, let everybody come to a stop, and then just poke your way on through. I'm not sure if he had been able to catch up to the back of the pack before we took that green flag. I felt like he was trying to get back there. I don't think he intentionally laid back that much. But it ended up working to his benefit because he snuck through that. And even with the damage he has on the rear end of his truck, you've still got, call it now, maybe 10 trucks behind him. And certainly there are a few of those that are definitely not going to make it back to this race. Eberhardt for sure. We appreciate his attempts to hold on to everything he can, pretending like he's Superman. But not today. That doesn't work in this kind of simulation.
10 or more trucks on pit road. Jackson Crowder, Ethan Lane, they have both towed their trucks to pit road. Daniel Eberhardt out of this race. He will finish 33rd or 34th as long as Lane can get back out onto the racetrack. Not sure he will be able to, though. A lot of guys on pit road in the box for a considerable amount of time. This isn't just a splash and go here for these guys like Navarro, Gary, Max Brady, Liam Sheen. This is let's buff everything out. Let's peel off the fenders if they're that badly damaged. And let's get back out there and scrap together as many points as we can get here in the waning laps of this race. We're past halfway. And for some of these guys, points have to be on the mind here. You got Ty Bass, who's on pit road. He is 60th in points right now, 7 points to his name from Mid-Ohio. He can't afford to have another bad race like today.
Exactly the point I was going to make, Jacob. This is all of a sudden turned into this race of attrition where it's, we've had a few pretty sizable wrecks that, you've had to avoid, make your way through it. And absolutely, if you have damage at this point, you just got to log as many laps as you can just to try to accrue something, get something out of this race. Because if you retire, if you hang it up, then you're just going to hope your drop week comes into play at that point. And you got to, that puts so much pressure on you in these upcoming rounds to go out there and perform really well. Whereas, some of these guys, you just got to try to salvage something out of this.
1 lap to green for these guys. 27 to go when we get the green flag. Anthony Burrows, heartbreak for him. Bad week 2 weeks ago, even worse week tonight. He's going to finish dead last. He only scrapped together 5 points at Mid-Ohio 2 weeks ago. Looking down through the rest of the list, Shane Williamson, I know he's been involved in a couple of issues. Ethan Lane, he had a rough week at Mid-Ohio. Doesn't really change here tonight. Jackson Crowder, Max Brady as well. Those are guys outside the top 40, top 45 in points that find themselves in trouble early on. And Daniel Eberhardt, 17th in points, got a top 10 back at Mid-Ohio. Well, he's going to be at the back end tonight, maybe using this as his drop week, hoping that he can keep it clean the rest of the way through this season. Of course, we already know what happened to Seth DeMerchant in that other split. He was 28th in points coming in. Gonna have to look at this as his drop. Ethan Lane has parked the car. He's done for the night. That means Eberhardt will finish unofficially in the 33rd position. Everybody back on the racetrack except for Sheen, Crowder, and Blewett. Everybody else is with the pack. Bumgarner just left pit road. Pace car will enter pit road. Jonathan Delaney and Casey Tucker on the front row. Green flag.
Oh, they found out there's somebody, I think, may have stacked it up in the middle of the pack because they went 3 and 4 wide a little bit earlier than you would expect in the restart zone coming down to turn 1, but they will go 2s and maybe 3s, and we'll see whether or not they make contact here in turns 1 and 2 if you want to be on the, I guess, alternative line of thinking that Pocono has 5 turns modeled after Trenton Speedway in New Jersey. They'll make the run up the Long Pond straight into turn 2, modeled after one of the famed turns at the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then off into turn 3 down the short chute, which is modeled after the Milwaukee Mile, or I suppose in our alternative view, turns 4 and 5.
It has 3 turns. This 5-turn crap's got to stop.
No. 5 turns all the way.
5.
It's what turn 4 exists for a reason. It's not what turn 6.
Hey, you gotta look at the corners that the track is based off of. We have turns 1 and 2. Then you got Indianapolis as turn 2, and then you got 3. Oh, hold on, I can't math.
What?
Math. I'm not the only person that can't do math today. Yeah.
You can call it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and call what's actually turn 2 the kink and just Nazareth this racetrack. But we're not doing the 5-turn crap. No, it's either 3, maybe 4. That's it.
What if we said 6?
Ryan Howard's cool.
By the way, we missed our iRacing midway race break, but we were also under caution. Jonathan Delaney is your race leader at this point. Casey Tucker sits in second. How about Joey Brown hanging tough in third? Blaze Crawford, a nice rebound since he did not make the race 2 weeks ago. He sits in fourth. Johnny Avila sits in the 5th spot. And you got to look further back. I heard Casey Tucker come over the radio and say, I'm not racing right now. I'll race you later. Right now, we're just riding to the end of this deal. First side-by-side battle was Nate Jurgensen and Kenny Brady. Now, further up the road, Daniel Botafuco's up the hill, and here comes Christopher Hill.
So battles of hills, battles of people going up the Long Pond Straight, battles here towards the back end of the top 15 or so. The other thing I was looking at just as we were coming out of the caution, by my count, we've already seen our math can be suspect here on FTGG, but I think we have somewhere in the ballpark of maybe 13 or 14 trucks still running that don't have damage, and this truck to the inside of Tyler Gary, Shannon Ballou, I think is the last one in the field that is completely clean.
It's possible. We would love to see the incident report at the end of this DLC. Who has 0x? Side by side going into turn number 1. Kyle Myers on the bottom. Avila up the racetrack. You got Blaze Crawford right in front of him. I think that's 63, maybe trying to get alongside Crawford. He slides up, going to shut the door. And here comes that 81 of Myers on the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking through turns 1 and 2, we'll call it there, was really similar to a plate-esque almost, the way they were passing. Just, once you lose your help, it's almost just as if you get freight trained by that entire pack on the inside.
Freight what?
Freight train. Don't talk about it.
There you go. Just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. How about the battle for second? Joey Brown looking on Casey Tucker. Couldn't quite get there. Instead, let's go to Kyle Myers, who is side drafting with Crawford, almost pinching him into the wall for this battle for fourth.
I was about to say, you can watch the battle for second all you want. My eyes are going to be on Kyle Myers, Blaze Crawford, and Johnny Avila, who are nestled in there, and they've brought Will Klein back into it. Timmy Holmes just trailing there. Also a good battle for 10 between Christopher Hill and Jordy Lopez Jr. So pick your spot here, as Avila's going to tuck in line behind Crawford. That means that Lopez Jr. may have the shot at Hill, but he too will go single file, and that leaves the battle on the tunnel turn to fall to Nathan Jurgensen and Kenny Brady for the 13th position.
And they're still slugging it out back here. They were slugging it out a couple of laps ago. They exchange hands once again. Jurgensen moves into that 13th position. Brady back to 14th. He's got Galata and Pfeiffer right behind him here. Or Pfeffer, I guess it is, since there's no I. How about side by side up here inside the top 10? Will Klein and Timmy Holmes. These guys were inside the top 5 earlier on, and maybe for the lead, Casey Tucker. Here he goes to the inside, side by side with Delaney, and that might open the door for Joey Brown as well in that 14.
Yeah, Joey. Sorry, Pike, to cut you off there, but Joey Brown really, he really tried to stick it in there, and Jonathan Delaney was having none of it, cuts off the nose of the 14 and slots himself in line, really trying to avoid what happened to Johnny Avila when he fell all the way back to 6th. You just got to assert your place in that line right there.
Quickly, let's go over to the odds split and check in with Kevin McAdams, see what you got going on over there.
Green flag stops over here in the odd split. Trevor Perry and company got into the wall down the tunnel turn short shoot. And, I think he's a little bit upset at Connor Horn, but a lot of guys, including our leaders, Brandon McKissick is in, Boyd Hogan, Santi Tires, Dalton Collins, Jake Nichols, all trying to perform the undercut. Wyatt Tinsley stays out. They're coming in now, a dozen or so trucks, all trying to get down to 55 miles an hour. We'll see if McKissick, who was catching the top 2, let's see if he can pull the undercut. We'll have to find out here in a couple laps.
2 completely different races. Green flag pit stops in one. A lot of caution flag pit stops in the other, but we've had some good racing as well, and these guys just logging laps to get to the end of this thing. When they get to the start-finish line this time, we will have 20 laps to go here at Pocono.
20 laps coming, single file for just about everybody. And maybe we'll see something between Kaka Galata and Baloo a little bit further back. This is the best battle on the racetrack at the moment. But again, I think you're just trying to make sure that your fuel numbers are right with the caution. You're just trying to make sure you're in good shape. Yes, you can make it to the end, but Justin Malilla will come to you. How close do you think it is for these drivers, especially if we get into multiple green, white checker?
Well, I'm not worried until we get to the green, white checker. And you know what? At that point, it's going to be about track position. 1 green, white checker, probably not too worried. 2 green, white checkers or 3, then these guys are probably going to be pushing in the clutch, turning off the ignition, trying to save as much as they can.
Got to get there first. I like the strategy call from Justin. Just, let's not talk it into existence first. Let it exist, and then we'll talk about it. Coming to 19 to go. So, Caleb, if you're sitting in this second spot here, if you're Jonathan Delaney, Are you trying to set up a move on Casey Tucker? Tucker's been perhaps the strongest truck on the night. Are you trying to maybe test the draft a little bit, test the waters, see what you can do with your truck compared to the guys around you, and maybe practice a couple of moves for the end of the race?
Absolutely. I mean, that knowledge can never hurt you. It's something that you can have in your back pocket as a tool set to help you here if it comes down to it. You know, as you said, with those potential green-white checkers, you don't want to speak those into existence and base a strategy around them and then not have it ever come to fruition. So Jonathan Delaney right now, I feel like he's taking a very fair approach where, you know, he's not being overly aggressive trying to go for the lead, you know, sending it in, anything like that. But, you know, he's not letting Tucker run away with it by any means. You know, you see him right here, just kind of sizing him up a little, seeing what kind of run he can generate and how he can use that to his advantage. As you see, he starts to inch a little closer to the back of that number 8.
Well, we've got some relatively clean trucks here at the front of the field that have little to no damage. I'm sure that helps these guys that want to try and make a push for the win. If you've got a lot of damage on your truck on the front end and you're sitting in second, nobody's going to want to work with you because you're going to pull out and you're going to be a parachute and lose 10 or 15 spots. If your truck looks clean, it doesn't have a lot of damage, you might be a contender to pull out a line and win this race, James.
Potentially, that's certainly, I think, an option that's on the table. But yeah, it's almost like a plate track in that sense, in that if you've got damage and you try and create a second line, you're not only going to likely step out of the draft, but you're going to end up losing it. Interesting move here, though, from Casey Tucker to try and split the draft up a bit there from Delaney and company. Was getting the draft off the back of a lap machine there. Couldn't quite tell who that was, but as I look
Shane
at it, the answer is indeed Shane Williamson. So Tucker trying to catch the draft, and again, just trying to be mindful here of the fuel situation. You would imagine Casey Tucker's burning a little bit more than Delaney and Brown and Myers and Crawford and the rest of the company in the top 5 because he is the lead truck poking that hole in the air. So again, we'll see how it pans out. If we go the rest of the way green, he'll be fine. If we get green-white checkers, especially if we get more than one, then it gets very, very interesting, as Justin said.
Liam Sheen has been off the pace for these last couple of laps. He's still out there logging laps. I think it's just too much damage on that thing, and he's trying to keep it out of the way of everybody. That's who the leaders passed on this last lap coming down the Long Pond stretch. There he is off pace, just chugging along. Of course, he got involved in both the wreck here on the front straightaway on the restart and then that big wreck that we had in turn 1, which was our last caution flag. This time by will be 15 laps to go, and it's starting to look almost like this lead pack is starting to spread out a little bit. It's not as tightly compressed as it was 2 or 3 laps ago.
Yeah, and now we're starting to kind of see an interesting strategy from Casey Tucker unfold. You'll watch here. We'll see if he does it coming out of turn 3 this time, but they have started to weave back and forth the IndyCar line, the Indy 500 line, if you want to call it. Just weaving back and forth, trying to break the draft.
Surprised he's not also doing that in the Long Pond stretch since it is longer than the front straightaway here, but I think Tucker has done that mostly when there's been a lap car in front of him down on the inside. He can get the draft off the truck on the inside and then pull back up in line and pull ahead from these guys. Here comes Kyle Myers looking underneath Joey Brown for 3rd.
He tried to get the run underneath him, but we saw this in the Coke Series too. That run on the outside line and that second groove coming out of turn 1 is typically faster. So really have to complete your passes here on entry into the middle of the corner. If you're still side by side with somebody, middle to exit, it's very difficult to finish off a move within that corner. You're almost usually looking to the next turn here at Pocono in order to finish the move.
Gonna try it again down on the inside. See the lap car there just up the road. That's Tucker Minter that they're passing, lap truck. And then this battle for the lead now is here comes Delaney. That battling for 3rd kind of slowed the guys behind him down, and Delaney says, all right, it's time for me to go. Joey Brown's going to go with him, and that might cost Tucker that 2nd spot.
Oh, tight squeeze for Joey Brown. Casey Tucker and Joey Brown almost made big contact there. really great job for them to sort that one out. But here you go. You see Casey Tucker now is sitting in that spot that Jonathan Delaney and Joey Brown were in, where now it's, you got to size up the guys in front of you. And you see Joey Brown there, a great run through the tunnel turn, and he's really going to build a gap on Casey Tucker now.
And Joey Brown, we know he's had the strongest truck these last couple of weeks. He won at Charlotte. I was fooled and thought he wasn't going to make the next round. Well, obviously he did, and then he proved me wrong and won at Mid-Ohio, and here he is now trying to win at Pocono and win 3 in a row in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series between the end of round 1 and the beginning of round number 2. He has been very, very fast, very, very hot here in the summertime, and he's trying to carry that all the way through. 13 to go.
Biggest thing I'm going to be watching for with Joey Brown. If anybody saw the move that Delaney used to move Tucker out of the race lead and take it away from him, he switched his entry in turn 3, backed it up and came in a little bit higher. That allowed him to start his run down the front straightaway a little bit earlier than Casey Tucker did. And it was the difference in speed that created that allowed Delaney to get alongside him. So can Joey Brown do the same thing and back his entry up earlier to have more time on full throttle down the front straight? Or is he just going to be stuck behind Jonathan Delaney? And option 3, Jacob hits. Does he know what he needs to do, and maybe he's just waiting for the right time to make the pass so that Delaney can't try and pass him back?
Well, it really felt like that Casey Tucker has kind of backed off just a little bit. It should have back bumper that 14, kind of purposely leaving a gap, perhaps preparing for the big run once we get a little bit closer in this thing, that he can try and pull a move on Joey, get by that 14, and then go after Delaney for the lead. I don't think this thing is set and done by any stretch of the imagination, whether we go green flag the distance or not. We are far from done shuffling here in this lead pack, coming to 11 to go.
Yeah, and right now you're starting to see the tension turn up. 12 laps to go. This is where it's really going to start to heat up. At a track that's so notoriously hard to pass like Pocono, it's going to take some teamwork, I think, to try and size up the guy ahead of you and make a pass here.
Back down into turn number 1, and Tucker inches just a little bit closer to that 14. Then he backs off a good bit. He's got Kyle Myers all over the tailgate of that 28, but he is staying tucked right in line. He is not pulling out and making the move yet. We're coming to 10 to go. We know how tough it is to pass. He's going to stick right in line. Ho-hum here going into turn 2.
Starting to wonder, just with the way Casey Tucker's truck is handling, say that 5 times fast, whether or not he maybe overdrove his truck in the opening, call it, 15 to 20 laps of this run, and now he doesn't quite have the tire life that some of the drivers around him do, and maybe he will suffer a bit for it. Watching that truck closely, maybe it's a tick tighter than it was, but it doesn't seem excessive to me, at least at this moment.
These guys cross the stripe. We hit 10 laps to go here from Pocono Raceway. In 2 weeks' time, we go to the Irish Hills. We visit Michigan International Speedway, another large racetrack, 2 miles in distance, as these guys go from one of the longest racetracks on the circuit to a little bit shorter, but it's definitely still fast. Here comes Kyle Myers. He's fast, looking for third into turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, Casey Tucker right now still trying to hang on, and I think James had a point when he said he might have overdriven it on that first stint, because he is absolutely suffering the consequences right now. Kyle Myers has been consistently faster. Blaze Crawford as well, wanted to bring him up. He's consistently been showing lots of restraint when it comes to making big moves, pulling out of line. He's really just been content. Makes me think that maybe he wants to be somewhat in this position when it comes to the end of this race, somewhere where he can accrue draft and try to slowly work his way up. But with 9 laps to go, who knows if he'll have that much time.
But look what happened, Caleb, with that shuffling for third place. The top 2 have pulled away by a lot, and Delaney has gapped to Joey Brown by a good bit as well. So Casey Tucker may be the glue holding everything together. They kick him back to P4, and now all of a sudden you've got a pretty solid gap between second and third and fourth.
Is he the glue holding everything together, or is he the dam holding everything up behind him? That, I think, is the better question to ask, because I think these gaps correspond and correlate pretty closely with the amount of time that it's taken these drivers to get around Tucker. The gap between Brown and Myers is about what it took Myers to get around Tucker, and now I think we're seeing the same thing with Johnny Avila. I think it's a question we'll be able to ask maybe with Blaze Crawford. Will Klein potentially, as he goes to the inside? There goes Tucker throwing the block on Avila into turn one. But yeah, I think it might be a matter of Tucker holding everybody up and everyone else trying to make this move quickly, because the front three still have speed. You lose touch with them, you've got no shot at winning this unless you have a yellow flag. So if you're Johnny Avila, you have to make this move as soon as you possibly can.
8 to go. Let's go back to Kevin McAdams with the odd split.
A little bit of strategy here, Jacob. Dustin Johnson, we went back to green with 35 laps to go, and we just had a caution, and that is going to spin perfectly for the number 30 of Dustin Johnson. Stayed out for 30 laps, just hit 6 laps to go. Caution out on the field, and that is going to be something that Brandon McKissick, who did leapfrog our current lap leader in Wyatt Tinsley, he will resume in 5th. But that is a great break for Dustin Johnson. Trevor Perry also stayed out. He was around 28th, 29th position. If we had another caution, maybe a lap or two sooner, he would have been 2nd. Those two guys really wish that caution would have came over sooner for Trevor, but huge break for Dustin Johnson. And we're going to have a last few laps dash here for the finish here in the odd split, Jacob.
Look at this battle back here. This is 10th on back, but Afuco, Lopez, Wenzel, Jurgensen, and Brady are side by side. They've caught these guys. They were side drafting each other like crazy. Headed down to turn number 1 on the front straightaway, but Afuco trying to hold them all at bay. He's got damage on the rear of the car. These guys a little bit faster.
And looking back towards the front, we just had a pass for second. Kyle Myers has worked his way around Joey Brown in the 14, and now Joey Brown will fall back to the 3rd position. Kyle Myers will now continue his pursuit of Jonathan Delaney, and it's quite a sizable gap, but not one that is insurmountable. With 6 laps to go, he will try to get up back there to him.
They can work together. You never know what these guys can pull off at this point. If they get greedy, though, that could play right into the hands of one Jonathan Delaney. 6 laps to go here at Pocono. Jonathan Delaney has led the most laps trying to hold on. There was a lot of lap traffic. Liam Sheen, Shane Williamson, and Jared Torres just came out of the tunnel turn, and they are majorly off the pace.
And how quickly will they be caught by the leaders, and where will they be caught by the leaders, and what will Jonathan Delaney do to try and avoid them? Meanwhile, Johnny Avila was all the way up in the outside lane over in 3. I don't know whether or not he got forced up there or whether or not that was more strategic, just trying a different line. But in either case, leaders actually doing a nice job here. They caught the lap machine of Shane Williamson nicely down the front stretch, so he doesn't factor much into this final battle for the win. It'll be Jared Torres and where they catch his Chevy Silverado for the team. That's going to be the tricky one, because there's not as much room to evade lap traffic on the back half of the racetrack.
He's a little more on pace compared to everybody else. Liam Sheen, by the way, he has given up. He has parked it. He is going home. He is done for the night. Jackson Crowder spent 26 minutes on pit road, and he's finally back out there. Torres right in the way of your leader coming off turn number 2. This could open up the door for Kyle Myers and Joey Brown sitting in 2nd and 3rd. The gap closed in a little bit, coming to 4 laps to go.
Yeah, and right now, Jonathan Delaney has consistently been running up on exit just a little bit more than Kyle Myers. I don't know if Kyle Myers is trying to undershoot that, to compensate for a little bit of this snake effect that Jonathan Delaney's been doing, trying to break up the draft a little, but you'll see it right here. That 6 truck just washes up just a little bit more than Kyle Myers in 2nd place. That 81 is there, though.
When could we see the move? We're coming to 4 laps to go. You don't want to make it too early. This race is enough like a plate track where if you do it too early, you could be a sitting duck if you're leading with 2 to go. I'm not sure the last lap, though. Is it too late to make the move, James?
I don't know. I think the bigger concern is if I'm Kyle Myers, I'm not sure if I love this spot because we saw it a little bit in the tunnel turn there last time by. He backed up to avoid Jonathan Delaney, and it nearly brought Joey Brown right on his rear bumper. I saw the contact with Avila there, who I think hit the wall there just a bit. But again, if you back up too much to try and set up your run on whoever's in front of you, you open the possibility up that the driver behind you may be able to get alongside you, and then it ruins your plan entirely. That, I think, is what we have to watch for, especially in Kyle Myers' case.
Well, these guys side by side may just ruin it for Crawford, Klein, Avila, Hill, and the rest behind them. It's a 4-horse pony show at the dog races as they come down the Long Pond straightaway, coming to 2 laps to go. Kyle Myers sits in second, aggressive all over the back bumper of that 11 of Jonathan Delaney. Delaney a little bit loose coming through turn number 2. That may open the door headed to turn number 3, but that 81 stays right in line. Doesn't have the help behind him from Joey Brown.
Yeah, and right now they are starting to overdrive the trucks just a little bit. Back in, starting to step out as the aggression is all the way up. 2 laps to go from Pocono. Kyle Myers coming up just a little bit. Looks like he'll have a little bit of a run, but what is he going to do with it with no help from Joey Brown behind him? He looks like he'll peek to the inside for the lead. Here we go, side by side.
Delaney tries to shut the door. Instead, Myers throws it in deep on the bottom. Delaney may get the better run on the high side. Myers slides up the racetrack. He gets loose. He can't hold on to the momentum. And with 2 laps to go, Delaney holds on to the lead. Now he's going to IndyCar draft down the back straightaway. That may have been the move that puts Jonathan Delaney in victory lane coming through the tunnel turn.
Lap and a half to go. I was wondering whether or not Joey Brown was going to be able to take advantage of the slip up from Myers on the exit of turn 1, but he couldn't quite get to Myers by the time they hit the tunnel turn. So it's maybe a truck length between your top 4 as they come out of turn 3 for the final time down to the front stretch and to claim the white flag.
No eNASCAR overtime today. White flag in the wind from Pocono. 1 more lap to go for Jonathan Delaney. He's got 2 car lengths to hold off Kyle Myers. Headed down into turn number 1. Joey Brown sits in that 3rd spot, a little too far back. Myers had a good run, couldn't quite get there. Delaney right down on the yellow line. Myers all over the back bumper. Overdrives turn 1 a little bit, but he's still got the momentum.
Yeah, and Pocono, you know, it's known for having some exciting finishes. Well, we had another one here tonight. Kyle Myers looking back down to the inside, maybe just a little bit. He'll stick in line going through the tunnel turn. Looking forward to turn 3. Does he have anything for Jonathan Delaney in the 6 truck? He's going to get really loose off the tunnel turn.
We saw a wild finish on Tuesday night. Does Kyle Myers have a vintage moment in him coming into turn number 3? Him getting loose coming off turn 2 may have just sealed the deal. Here they come out of turn number 3, coming to the checkered flag. Jonathan Delaney back on the gas. He's got nothing to worry about. And Jonathan Delaney's going to win at Pocono.
That's defensive driving at its finest, and that came after at least 1 bump, I thought, from Kyle Myers in the middle of turn 1. A little bit of contact there, but Myers, yeah, I think Caleb hit on it perfectly. Myers had the opportunity to set it up and tried to go for everything coming out of the tunnel turn, and I think almost emphasized the tunnel turn too much. He was just way too hard on throttle on corner exit, and it killed any opportunity he had to try and make the run out of turn 3. I think he had it right trying to set it up in 1, but what I think a lot of people tend to forget is that you can't really use turn 2 all that well if you don't get it right in 1. Passing opportunities are either turn 2 or turns 1 and 3 in the same lap. Myers tried to use turns 1, 2, and hopefully 3 in the same lap and got tripped up when he lost all the momentum out of 2. Jonathan Delaney with a nice drive to pick up the victory at Pocono in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series.
First win on the season coming into tonight as far as points are concerned. Jonathan Delaney was sitting in, I'll find him, oh, come on now.
There's some FTF math for you if we needed more.
How about 22nd? Well, no, that's just reading. I can't find him on the sheet. He was 22nd, just 1 point out from the cut line. So this win really going to help Jonathan Delaney as far as points are concerned. And Kevin, the odd split just wrapped up as Delaney's burning down the house.
Boyd Hogan, your winner over here in the odd split. Agnel Philippe shaking things up a little bit, took 2 tires, was your leader on the restart, passed in turn 1 by our eventual winner Boyd Hogan. Dustin Johnson, great beneficiary of that caution with 5 laps to go. He will finish in second. Brandon McKissick, solid effort, started third. He finishes in third. Parker White in fourth. Wyatt Tinsley in fifth. Santi Tira 6th. Agnel Philippe, as I mentioned before, 2 tire strategy. He gained 8 spots net on that call. He will finish 7th. Garrison Hogan 8th. Kevin King 9th. And our final recipient of a top 10 finish, Tommy Gossett, will finish in 10th here in the odd split. Jacob.
Well, Jonathan Delaney burned it down, quite literally. The engine went boom on that thing, hand grenaded it here on the front straightaway for all the virtual fans. He's your winner tonight from Pocono. Kyle Myers finishes in the second spot. Joey Brown finishes in third. Casey Tucker finished fourth. Blaze Crawford, a good drive for him, 22nd to 5th. That's exactly what he needed after missing Mid-Ohio 2 weeks ago. Johnny Avila finishes in 6th. Will Klein 7th. Timmy Holmes 8th. Christopher Hill, another monumental drive, 33rd on the grid. He finishes 9th. Daniel Botafuco just didn't have things fall quite his way with that strategy early on. Goes from the pole to round out the top 10.
11th on the final running order was James Wenzel. Jordy Lopez Jr. backs up the podium finish from Mid-Ohio with a 12th place finish here. Greeny Brady brought it home in 13th. 14th went to Christopher Pfeffer. Nathan Jurgensen finished in the 15th spot. 16th went to Matt Gucker. Shannon Ballou came home in the 17th spot. 18th went to Tyler Gary. Timmy Paccioli and Joseph Gulana completed the top 20.
Blake Bottoms will come home in 21st tonight. Raja Karuth, a somewhat quiet night for him after being involved in some accidents, 22nd. Max Brady in 23rd. Andrew Navarro in 24th. Ty Bass in 25th after starting 30th. Michael Bumgartner in 26th. Jared Torres didn't have things fall his way in 27th. Shane Williamson, 28th. Tucker Minner and Liam Sheen round out your top 30 as we'll head on to everybody else.
The final 5 all out of the race. Jackson Crowder, Joel Blewett, Daniel Eberhardt, Ethan Lane, Anthony Burrows all did not finish here on this last page. We've got all 3 drivers to talk to. Let's start with our race winner in Jonathan Delaney. So, how about it? Coming home with the win. A lot of defense there in those closing laps.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. I am in shock right now. I don't know what to say. I can't believe I just won a Road to Pro race. That is something I would have never thought would have happened. Oh my gosh.
Take us through those remaining laps. You had to do a lot of defense there, not only on Kyle Myers, but Casey Tucker as well, and even trying to get by him. He was almost like a brick wall with 10 to go.
Yeah, I was just trying to play it smart there at the end, trying, stay up front, trying to keep the lead and also try to save tires as well. And then also playing defense against Kyle. He got me down into 1 lap, and I was able just to hold the top and get around him. So, oh my gosh, that was, I'm in awe. I don't know what to say.
A solid finish 2 weeks ago when we were at Mid-Ohio, coming home with a good finish, coming home in 11th place in split number 1. Tonight, winning split 2. You were right around the cut line, just 1 point out coming in. How much does this help, not only, obviously, in the points, but the momentum going through these last 5 races?
Oh, it's huge to get a win here, and you just got to be consistent to make the top 20. So, just being consistent. Hopefully, we can bring this momentum into Michigan for 2 weeks from now. So, this is definitely a momentum booster for sure.
Congratulations on the win here tonight from Pocono. One heck of a drive. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we go to Michigan.
Thank you, guys.
Your race winner, Jonathan Delaney, in that 6. He goes to victory lane tonight. Now let's talk with our second place finisher, who was Kyle Myers with James Pike.
Kyle Myers, one of his best runs of the season, P2 here at Pocono, the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. And Kyle, you look back at the last lap, maybe the last few laps. Is there anything that you do differently in hindsight to try and get the victory?
Man, I don't know. I might have pulled the trigger a little too soon on when I should go, when I shouldn't go, but I was trying to keep clean air on the nose and the corners, and had a slight run on him into one, but I just couldn't make it stick. Got a little too loose, lost drive off, and I did what I could, and without trying to wreck us both, because I definitely didn't want to do that. I needed a solid point stay, so I think I got that going.
That's where I was going to head next, actually, because after not being able to run Mid-Ohio, you come in here. Did you feel the pressure of needing a good run like this, or was it more optimism coming into this evening that you felt like you had the truck that was able to come out and get a solid top 5 or even a podium finish like you nailed?
I knew we had a good truck. The guys at Legacy, we put in, not only me, but Chris Hill, Boyd, shout out to him for winning top. Them guys put in a tremendous amount of hours. I felt good in the runs that I did. This round 2, there's so much going on outside of the sim for me right now. I'm just taking it, with a grain of salt, having fun, and I think, not letting the pressure get to you in this second round is going to be the most that you can do.
We turn our attention in 2 weeks' time to a track that actually races more similarly, I think, to Pocono than people will give it credit for. Michigan International Speedway up next. Does the solid run here give you the belief that you can go to another track over 2 miles in length and be strong in the Irish Hills?
I'm hoping so. I know we'll bring something that's going to contend for sure. I think it's just going to be all about where you start, because, obviously with this package in the trucks, it's all just a draft fest. So you definitely want to be up front. You want to stay up front. What's going to mess that up is people on different pit strategies, driving through the field, taking chances. So you just got to pick the right strategy, obviously be at the right place towards the end of it, but we're going to definitely try to just stay up in the top, 10 the whole time. I think might be the safest. But then again, I've been wrecked from the lead. So
you can go pretty much anywhere, but Kyle Myers comes away, needed a good run and got exactly what he needed. P2 tonight for the driver from Bobby Dale Earnhardt's Legacy Esports.
Now let's talk with our third place finisher tonight, Joey Brown. It's our third interview with him in a row with Caleb Hoffman.
Joey Brown comes home P3 tonight, stringing together a solid round 2 after a win 2 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, and now a podium finish from Pocono. How does this momentum energize you as we get deeper into the season?
Oh man, that was a long race. I think that puts us P1 in points, so it puts us in a good position to make a contender. The truck was fast. The guys put a lot of hard work into it. Sucks that we had that little bit of incident lap 1. Kind of hurt our straight line speed a little bit. Had a little bit of nose damage, so I couldn't really get a run on anyone. It was great through the corners, and then as soon as coming off, it just bogged down and couldn't really do anything with it. So it was just kind of stayed in line, didn't really do anything too aggressive, and that's awesome. P1 and a P3, that's a great start.
Absolutely. And with the success that you found so far this year at some of our more draft dependent tracks, how do you look forward to 2 weeks' time from Michigan?
I think we got a pretty good base here for those type of tracks. We were real good at Kansas in round 1. We were decent here. I think we're going to be pretty good at Michigan coming up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on a third place finish here from Pocono. We'll send it back to Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
So there is our top 3 tonight from Pocono, and now we get to look ahead and look forward and get to see, we obviously take that week off, and then we come back in 2 weeks when we go to the Irish Hills in Michigan. Not quite as unique as a turnover between Mid-Ohio and Pocono, but still a different racetrack. It's narrower. It's going to be harder to pass, but it's still going to have that plate race-like feel with these trucks. The draft is going to be crucial, James.
Narrower maybe in points, but Michigan's a place I'm particularly excited for. It's a place that has always raced very well in the sim. And you think about what we saw with the Coke Series. I'm almost sad that we're not going there with the Coke Series this year, because you think back to the finishers we had in 2020 and 2021 there, and they were absolutely some of the best finishes we had all year long. You take vehicles that can bunch up even tighter in the draft because they don't have as much power as the old Cup cars or even the next gen cars do now. I have a hunch that Michigan race coming up in 2 weeks' time might be the best race of the season. I'm really, really excited for it.
Caleb, you got to remember, at the end of this deal, we take the top 20 in points. When we get to the end of September, we get to Phoenix. That's the last race. We take the top 20 in points. 70 guys are fighting for that right now. So you've got 50 guys on the outside looking in, even if it's by the slimmest of margins right now. If you're on the outside, how do you stay motivated these next 5 races, these next 10 weeks, to get you to the finish line and keep you in the hunt to try and make the next round?
Well, absolutely. I mean, round 2 is a gauntlet for sure. You have so many different track types that you got to mix in here. You got, some wild cards. It almost feels like heading to Michigan. You had a big wild card tonight in Pocono. It was completely not what we were expecting with the amount of, attrition and big wrecks that we had tonight. So, I mean, you just got to keep your head up, remain optimistic, because anything can happen in these races, as we saw tonight. Looking forward to Michigan. You're going to have something crazy going on there, I'm sure. So there's plenty of opportunities to just run up front, win, just remain consistent with it. And, more likely than not, you'll find yourself in the top 20.
Just have to wait and see what comes in 2 weeks' time when we go to the Irish Hills from Michigan. Coming up on FTF.GG, the Bar Visual FTF Cup Series is back from Pocono on Saturday night. You can catch that right here on FTF.GG after 9:30 Eastern, closer to 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll be ripped and ready to go for that. Winstel, the Winstel Gen 4 Challenge 2006. That is at Indianapolis on Sunday evening around 7:30, 8 o'clock, I believe is the start time for that. ERL is back with the Miatas from Miami Road Course on Wednesday night at 7:30 on the Esports Racing League channel. And, of course, we are back in 2 weeks' time from Michigan, 9 o'clock Eastern start time from there. For Kevin McAdams checking in on the odd split, for Justin Malillo down on pit road, for Zach Johnson, our producer, and for Caleb Hoffman and James Pike alongside me, I'm Jacob Pitts. Thank you so much for watching tonight's presentation of the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series. Jonathan Delaney, your winner from Pocono. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night.